If you're a mom who needs just one night that's all about you, I need you at Mom It Ain't Easy, the Mommy Collective Summit on October 1st at the Mayfield in Chicago. We're talking incredible food and drinks, local vendors, live music, amazing raffles, inspiring conversations, and our signature panel featuring moms who are building careers, businesses, and lives they love. Plus, I'm excited to announce that Anna Bellaval will be joining us as our surprise guest for a live conversation and audience Q&A. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Grab your tickets now at themommycollective.com. I'll see you there.
Welcome to the Mommy Collective. I'm Paulina Rowe, radio host, TV contributor, writer, and mom of one. This is where ambitious moms come to keep their identity intact while navigating motherhood. Here we talk about the real stuff: career, money, relationships, identity, and everything that gets messy in between. You won't find sugarcoating or cliches. What you will find are unfiltered conversations, real resources, and proof that you don't have to lose yourself to be a good mom. The Mommy Collective is here to remind you can be ambitious, you can take up space, and you can thrive in motherhood and in everything else that makes you, you. Before we get into the episode, make sure you're following the Mommy Collective on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and share this podcast with a mommy in your life who needs a little inspiration or just a reminder that she's killing it. Also, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter and leave us a review so we can keep showing up and reach every ambitious mom out there doing big things. Let's get into it. All right. Thank you so much. And we are back with another episode of the Mommy Collective podcast. And today I am so excited to chat with my girlie. She has helped not only me like on a personal level, just like really, I don't know, like getting myself more out there, right? And kind of doing things that I always said I wanted to do. I call it my Carrie Bradshaw era of like finally getting more into writing. But I think have helped, the Mommy Collective as a whole just really grow, get exposure, but also really build authority in the space that we're in, right? The mom space. So I would love to welcome Suanny Garcia. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the kind words.
Of course. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I'm really excited to chat with you because a lot of our moms that listen, and it's not even just moms, but it's like women, a lot of people who are building businesses, but also like building brands, right? And really trying to get, I say like their voice out there, right? Whether it's like build authority in a space or, become an expert in their space, whatever it might be. I feel like a lot of time, there's so much information out there in the world, right? And of course, with social media and all the platforms and everything, like you can Google things or now, ChatGPT things and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like so many of us want to make sure that like what we're doing is getting recognized, it's getting seen, you know what I mean? And whatever that means to each business owner, each brand owner. But first things first, before we dive into the conversation today, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Cuban. I was born in Cuba, raised in Miami. And
Yes.
I always say that because so much of a part of what I do, which is like, educate people on how to get into the media. And I always vouch for like freedom of speech. And it's because in Cuba, we don't have that freedom of the media. And so kind of like that's why I kind of started my career in communications and media. And I've been in the industry for over 10 years. I think it's like 12 years now. And I've worked in both public relations, so traditional like PR with an agency. I was doing travel and tourism down in South Florida. And then I worked as an editor in chief. So I always say that I have kind of like, it's been so beneficial because I've been able to see things as a publicist and as the editor who's like receiving the communications and the pitches from people. And I'm also the author of a book called The New Latina, which is my little baby.
Yeah.
I don't have children, but that's my firstborn baby. So
Yes. Oh my God. I love that. So when did you write your book? How come I don't have a copy of it?
So I wrote my book like 4 years ago.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna get it. I didn't know that. Why didn't I know that? Maybe I did. I feel like I've been all over the place.
No,
Okay,
I
so
don't
4 years
promote it
ago.
as much anymore. I feel like at the beginning, like the first 2 years, like went really hard, and then usually like after a book is like 2 years old, you don't promote it as hard just because. But yeah, it's still available, and I'm super proud of it.
That's amazing. What was the what motivated you to write the book, and if like what is it about specifically, right? That kind of made you want to do that.
Yeah, so it's called The New Latina, 100 Millennials Shaping Our World. And I actually have it here. I interviewed 100 Latinas, and like celebrities, like people in beauty, just like a bunch of women doing amazing things, essentially. And I interviewed them. And the reason that I did this was because I was in a transition period from PR to moving into editorial. And I was like, well, what's something that I've always wanted to do? And I've always wanted to write a book. And so I was like, well, there is no book like with Latinas now. Like every time we talk about Latinas, it's always like the history and like the generations, but like what are we doing now? And what are the like creative careers that we've done now? You know, I feel like as a Latina, our parents might sometimes be like, oh, we want you to be a doctor or a lawyer. So we didn't have a lot of like different ways to be or to like see success. Right. Aside from that, at least me growing up. And so I wanted to put it all together in a book and I started doing that. And I loved the way that it came out and got so many people involved. So I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to do it.
That is so cool. Yeah, I got to get a copy of that. I don't know why. I remember this too now that I think about it. That's so incredible. And then you got a lot of really cool and amazing women to be a part of that. Like, and you're able to interview them too. So I love it. That's amazing. So you describe PR as like brand positioning, right? And amplification. But before we talk about like actually getting press and like how that works and stuff and your recommendation, but like, how does someone figure out what they actually want to be known for?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I think it's always like a combination of what you have done for a while, like your career, what people ask you for help with. Some people might not even know like what they're known or what they should be known for, but it's always like, what do people ask you for help with? You know, with you, it might be, you know, like creating community or like, show me how to like run a podcast. Like, how would I host a podcast? Right. Cause you have all this experience, like with radio experience and podcasting. And so those type of things will give you clues. And then the rest of it is just like figuring out how to connect what you know and to like current things that are happening in the media. I don't know if that like explained it, but I think it's definitely like a case by case thing.
No, for sure. And then like, you know, a lot of times I do feel, this is my opinion, but like in today's world, right? Digital world, whatever you want to call it. I feel like a lot of us like really tap into a lot of our interests, right? So like it might be like more than one thing. So how do you feel when like that comes into play when someone's like, well, I talk about this and people like this about me and this. What is your advice?
I think it's important to find a way to connect to connect those things. Like I'm not a big fan of like niching down, but I do think your story has to connect to what you do. For example, with me, I talk about media. I talk about being a Latina. Right. So I have written articles about being a Latina in the media and I wrote my book on Latinas and that's also like publishing in media. I wanted to talk a lot about Cuba when, just because it's like currently in the news and kind of like talk about things from my perspective. And so I said in the beginning, so I connected that to the way that Cuba communicates what's going on in the media. So everything and I'm just giving me as an example, but everything that I talk and post about, it could be a different subject, but it's from the same lens. It's from the same, like, this is the media part of things. This is like the thinking, the communications part of things. So you can talk different things, but your lens has to be your specific way of viewing things.
Okay. So speaking of like your view on things or like, even like sharing stuff about like yourself, right? A lot of women, moms, like I feel like are so talented, and especially when it comes to like, right, like social media or writing or whatever, but a lot of them are accomplished, all that good stuff. But I think a lot of times we do struggle to really talk about ourselves, right? So why do you think that we have such a hard time actually like claiming our expertise? And I'm one of them. I'm 100% one of these people.
Yeah, that's such a good question. And it's something that's been coming up a lot lately in the conversations that I'm having. I was just speaking to someone and she was telling me her story. I told her like a few press angles that would work well for her story. And she was like, the way that you wrote it and positioned it, like made me feel like it really mattered. Like the way that you like wrote it made me feel like, oh, my story really matters. And I think it's just about believing. So I think it's a few things. One of them is like believing that you have a story worth sharing, but also understanding that if you do have that story worth sharing, which I believe everybody does, it's also a responsibility to share it because people who know less are looking to you to help them, to be able to like guide them in a sense, and to be able to just say like, oh, I've been there. Like somebody else has been there. Somebody else understands what I'm going through. So when you share your story and when you're more open about your experiences and you're willing to be seen, it is so beautiful because people will say, oh my God, I've had the same experience. Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing that. And so
Yes.
once you get like a little bit more comfortable doing that and you get that feedback, you start doing it more and you're like, oh, this is great. Like I found like a community of people.
Oh, that's actually really good advice. Because you're right. I feel like once you start kind of seeing the responses, right, those kind of responses come in and like the connection part, it does push you to do more. Why do you think though, like a lot of times, like we sort of hesitate? Is it because we're afraid of backlash? Do you think like, I don't know, someone told us we sucked one time, so now we never want to, like share our expertise? Like, why do you think like some people kind of hold back or held back right before they actually walked into that space that you mentioned?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be many different things, I think, the more you practice it, the better you get at it. I think not everybody is like naturally wants to talk about themselves or like feels like
Yeah.
they want to make a reel on social media or, there's certain formats that are not for certain people. And I think it's just a matter of like you growing into like your role and what you're doing, especially as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. At some point, you're like, okay, I have to do this. Like this, I'm going to try to do this as best as I can in the way that I feel comfortable doing this. Like that could be showing up on social media, pitching yourself to press or going on podcasts, whatever it is. And so, it's an identity thing, but I think you don't have to immediately be a business owner and feel like you have to be good at everything, at promoting yourself, feel like you have to be immediately good. Like it's definitely a skill that you practice. So don't be hard on yourself if that's not something that is coming natural or if that's something that's taking you a little bit longer. Like it's not easy for everybody. So I'd say, yeah, it's a process and it's more of like an identity shift.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I 100% agree. And you mentioned that you worked on like both sides, right? So the editor receiving pitches, right? And then the PR expert that you are helping people get noticed, get in the media. So what do you feel that most people misunderstand though when it comes to pitching the media?
That's a good question. So I feel that most people will so I'll go into meetings with people and they'll tell me their story and they'll tell me, they'll show me their website. They'll tell me what their brand is about. And then some people will be like, okay, like this is a good story. And I'm like continuing to ask them questions and then better stories will come like out of even what they didn't think were actual like story ideas. But usually what people think are good stories to pitch the press are usually too polished or too broad. Like too broad is a thing. So you want to get specific. Like you don't just help women do this. You help women who are struggling with this, do this in X amount of time. So you want to get really specific in terms of like when you pitch in what the story idea is. Like what is the actual story here? Like you don't want to send an editor your entire business plan, like all your social media. Like you don't want to make them do all the work to try to find what the story is. You want to be able to say, hey, I want to write an article about how I like the one you wrote for Business Insider, how I went all out for my daughter's first birthday on social media. And it was just for social media and like, whatever your feelings were about that. Like that's a very specific instance that you spoke about. Specific experience. Like you didn't talk about the Mommy Collective as a whole. You didn't talk about how many amazing things you're doing. You talked about this specific experience as a mother. And that is what worked, right? Like that's what an editor was like, okay, yeah, tell me about this and then connect, talk about the Mommy Collective here too, because it makes sense. So that's long story short. That's what I would say.
Yes.
The best
No,
way.
I mean, that's great advice because like before I started and we've worked together and we're going to continue to work together too, like coming up, which I'm really excited about. In many ways, we'll discuss it in a second too, but I felt like, somebody who didn't ever really pitch the media because I guess I am the media, right? So I receive them like at work and radio. Hey, can I come on your show or can I, whatever, promote this event, whatever it was. I felt like, yeah, when I was starting to pitch to like Business Insider or these other publications, it was like very much like, okay, like what, to me, it was almost like what makes the story, maybe like unique. Cause like, I feel like all of our pitches sort of had like a little bit of a unique angle, but you're correct. It was very like specific of like my daughter's first birthday party. Like, I could pitch like, this is the Mommy Collective and this is what we do. And this is who we serve. And we're so great. Cause we're just so great. But you know what I mean? I was like, I could pitch all these things and stuff, but then I'm like, like when I started working with you, I saw how like we really like narrowed it down, right? And then like really came up with a specific angle. And I felt too, like maybe because this is also my brand, but a lot of mine were quote hot takes, right? Like I'm sure a mom read that and was like furious and was like, how dare you? Like, I'm going to spend $1 million every year on my kid's birthday. And that's completely okay. I'm not saying it's not okay by any means, but I was sharing my experience. And I guess it could almost be seen as controversial, a hot take, or just something different, and I had to be okay with that. I was scared.
Yeah. And, and that's part of like being brave and like being open to being seen. There's definitely like a part of that you have to it's a muscle that you kind of practice. But going back to what you said about, you probably already like had that in your mind, but hadn't thought about it as a process, right? Because you've received pitches and you've been like, how should I even like talk about this on the radio? Like what angle would work here? What's coming up soon? What special date? What event is coming up that I can tie this to? And that's the connection that I love to help people make, because as an editor and as somebody receiving pitches, you make that connection, but maybe not like so consciously. And so it's always helpful just to tell people like, hey, instead of pitching me so broadly, like this is what I'm working on. This is how you should position your pitch so that I can receive it better.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I couldn't agree more. I love that. So if a mom or like a woman has never received press before, so like she's never even, like let's say like been published here or none of that kind of stuff, like what should she have in place before she sends that very first pitch? What do you think should be like the first thing she should have in place?
So she should have some sort of like website or like presence on social media. It doesn't have to be even like 5,000 followers. It could be like a small following too, but it should be clear what she does, right?
Okay.
And I say that not necessarily because an editor is going to always look at that, but because you want to be clear on what you're doing, what you serve. If you have a product, if you serve someone, if you're doing consulting, like you want to be clear on your business, right? And then from there, it's just like defining your story angles. Like what is your story, right? Like you have to be clear on what you are working towards. Like for example, if you wanted to get more people or grow the Mommy Collective, get more people to the podcast, like in what strategic ways can you do that by sharing your story in the press, right? So it's like, what are your goals and what are you working towards? Because sometimes feature on TV is not gonna, for example, for events, you're gonna want to be on TV. But a story about something different, you're maybe gonna want to write it as a byline. So, but before even getting to any of that, I think it's getting clear on what your angles, your like specific media angles are.
Okay, when you say media angles, you're saying, like if I'm, a mom, business owner, I'm building a brand, I want to be featured on, I don't know, like Good Morning America. Is that what you're saying? It's like, that's the different angle brand or like the different,
Yeah. So I would say it's like an angle is kind of like saying, and it's hard to define it. So I'm glad you clarified here, but angle is kind of saying like, okay, I'm Paulina. I'm a radio host, but I'm also the host of my podcast. I also have the Mommy Collective, and I occupy these different identities, right? Within the Mommy Collective, this is what I do here. This would be the best ways to talk about the Mommy Collective in the press. I'm talking about, like, if you're talking about a lot of celebrity and pop culture stuff within the podcast, like you might want to pitch that to the press, like pitch certain angles to the press to promote your podcast. So it's more of like within everything that you're doing, finding the way to connect that to what press wants.
Got it. Okay. And before we move on to, can you clarify like the different press outlets that like people can pitch to? Because obviously people think press, like, you might think, like a TV station, but like there's more, for example, like the Business Insider stuff that we've worked on and like other publications, Hip Latina, stuff like that. When somebody says press, like who can we pitch to and what are the angles in 2026? Who are we talking to?
Yeah. So great question. There's different formats to pitch the press, which means like different ways for you to be featured. One way is for you to go get interviewed on TV. That's usually better when you have an event or when you have something timely. Another way is for you to write your own story, right? Like write your own byline, which is like you can pitch an editor at Business Insider and say, hey, I want to write about this experience, which is what you've done many times. And that way it's also beneficial because you can also get compensated for what you're writing, like for your experience and your words, right? So if you were like a therapist who wanted to contribute 4 times a month to a publication about things that are going on right now. Like, Selena Gomez talks a lot about mental health. Like if a therapist has like a specific angle or opinion about it, they could write it out for publication. So that's a second way, right? Like the second way is just writing about what you know. The third way is getting quoted, which is when a journalist is already working on a story and they need an expert quote. They need to, quickly ask you, hey, what do you think about this? Because you've been an engineer for 10 years. Like, what would you say about this? And then you submit that, like you submit what you think about, their question. And then you're getting quoted in the publication. That helps because it helps with your SEO. And it also helps with like when people that are reading the article, they can click because you usually get linked so they can click on your website. And it helps like establish a relationship with the editor. So sometimes like this just happened to a client of mine where he pitched a quote and then ended up getting like a full feature in the publication because he had like that connection with the editor.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are the 3 major. And then of course, like the 4th way is when you pitch an editor to write a story about you. That one takes more strategy. So that's the one that I would say, maybe try certain things out before you get to that. And that's the one that I would say, okay, maybe if you have a publicist budget, then that's what you should go for. And if your company is like ready, then you could do that publicist budget, or you could work with a publicist on that. But before that, there's tons of ways that you can do this on your own without having to spend so much money on a publicist.
And I want to definitely dive into that too, of like how can moms or small business owners kind of do that? And speaking of small business owners, what do you think is the biggest PR mistake that you see small business owners make when they're trying to create buzz around their business or maybe a product launch or whatever it might be?
That's a good question. I mean, anything that's like too general or too vague or where the language is just not speaking to people. I think a lot of people get caught up in wanting to like sound or position themselves professionally. And when you're speaking to the public, that actually has the opposite effect because you want to connect with people. You want to talk to them like how you talk to a friend. Like that's how people are connecting with people in this age of social media and people having their personal brands. Like you want to talk like you understand what they're going through, like you're talking to a friend. So, I mean, I just, make things fun and make things like relevant for now.
Oh, yeah. No, I love that. And then how can like we use our personal stories, right, in our branding without feeling like we're exploiting maybe our hardest or most vulnerable experiences? Like, how could we do that or pitch that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that depends. Some people don't want to share their most vulnerable experiences, and that's fine. And they don't want that like part of like exploitation or just feeding like all of their businesses out there. And that's important because not every single story angle that maybe is a good story angle needs to be pitched. Like not everything needs to be out there. And I think with this like social media world that we live in, like it's very easy for people to think like, oh, I have to like bear it all and like be completely out there. And that's not always the case. You can really choose like what parts of your story are sort of amplified for people to see.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that's something I personally struggle with because sometimes I'm like, I'm not sharing enough, right? And I want to always be authentic and I want to be real because I just am as a human. There's like moments where I'm just like, first of all, I don't even know if I have like the capacity to talk about this right now. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I hate to say I'm so drained sometimes just from life kicking my butt in all different directions. But I also try to respect like other people's privacy, right? Because it's not just about me, it's other people involved. So I definitely want to always be like, I want to come off as like relatable and like I always want to come off like again, like as a strong voice in my mom community, right? Like the media, radio world. But like there is a line sometimes that I'm just like, am I willing to cross it, you know? And that's like a choice that I have to make honestly daily to be completely transparent, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. When there's other people involved, you have to be more careful because you're not the only one affected. And for me, it's like, I don't share a lot of things. Like I stick to like my few things that I share. For example, I'm not like making dating content of like the people that I'm like going out on dates with or like how I'm dating. Like if I wanted to somehow, I don't know, write a story about that, or if it had to deal with like my career, like the things that I'm doing, I would, but it's just not what what I'm focused on, not what people come to me for either. So you have to think about like, what do people come to you for? And sometimes you want to change that. So then that's the case where you would start doing different kind of content. Like if I wanted to start talking about fashion or dating, then I would do more content on that. But I'm very focused on these particular like content pillars that people call it. But it's just like what you're putting out into the world, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, for sure. I 100% agree with that. You kind of mentioned this earlier, but like when it comes to like social media, right? And like you said, like, when you pitch, like, what should you kind of have ready, right? And you like have a website or have like some kind of online presence. But I'm curious if like, what if you feel like you're not ready or your stuff's not perfect, right? I know you probably hear that often where they're like, oh, my site doesn't look great, or oh, my social media isn't like put together and pretty and ready. But I feel like that kind of holds us back, right? This perfectionism holds us back from visibility and maybe like opportunities, right, that are just passing on by. What do you have to say to somebody, right, who's like, well, my Instagram's not pretty or my website's not that great yet?
Yeah, I'd say don't worry about them. Focus too much on that. If you have a running business and you have people that are paying you, you have clients or products that are selling, like your business is running and it's good enough. And all you need is one good angle to pitch to press. All you need is like one good opinion that you have or like one idea that's relevant that you can pitch to press, especially if you're like writing that yourself. I want people to understand that media and like media outlets are constantly searching for content. They're constantly searching for like things to talk about, things to publish on their website. They're publishing like 10 stories a day. Like they also need that content. So I remember when I used to work in PR, me and my boss, we used to have a running joke where like, we hope it's like we were like having an event and I'd be like, I hope it's a slow news day so that people could come but slow news day means, oh, there's not a lot to talk about so that so editors and producers are going to find stories elsewhere. And I feel like that's like very industry talk. Like it's like very an interesting thing, but I just, I want people to operate with the mindset of I can pitch because they want me to, like they want more stories to be able to cover. And my story, could be the exact story that they want at this time.
100%. No, I agree with that. And then you also mentioned that like the old myth, right, of like to have a publicist or like or to get your, pitches out into the world. It can cost, thousands of dollars. It just costs a lot of money, right? Especially for somebody who's like a small business owner or somebody who's like building a brand on their side, right? Maybe they have like a 9-to-5. So that might not just be in the budget or possible for people. So how can you as a business owner, right? As somebody who's building their brand, how can we essentially like work with PR, like someone like you, without breaking the bank in that kind of way? Because you were like, there's many ways to do it now.
Yeah. So like I said, those bylines, like learning how to get yourself quoted into articles, and then learning like if there's a specific trend right now, see what's happening right now. There's that trial of, unfortunately, that I forgot her name.
Lindsay Clancy.
Yes. I haven't been keeping up with it, but I know that there's a lot of opinion pieces and like people speaking to that, especially if you're an attorney who can say something or, you have like certain expertise in that area or, there's a personal story you want to share, like things like that, right? Like at any point there's news that you can kind of attach yourself to. That's like a smart way to get press. And then those are 3 different strategies. I'm going to be teaching that in September in a pitching challenge where I'm going to show you like exactly how you can do that on your own without needing to spend, such a huge budget on a publicist.
Absolutely. So tell us about your challenge then. What can we expect in it? Obviously, how can we sign up? I just signed up yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't even know what day it is. I'm excited because you and I have worked together like on a much more personal level too than that. And I feel like every time I've done that, like I've just grown as, again, being on both sides of it, but I've just grown so much in like being able to like share my story or like have, what I mean? Like pitch my stuff out there. I know. I took all that with me. It's like something that has really helped me grow, the Mommy Collective grow. So personally, I sort of say thank you. I love working with you. So tell us about the challenge.
Yeah, no, I love working with you too. You're the best. But the challenge is going to be super fun. So I'm going to be very involved in it. So it's not going to be one of those challenges where I kind of tell you what to do and then I'm out. Like, I feel like, I don't know why I keep seeing that kind of stuff, but I'm going to be very involved in helping you shape your messaging. So everyone's going to get that like support from me and feedback and able to like, when they're writing their angles, it's always helpful to say, is this going to be something that the press is going to pick up? So I'm going to be there to help give that feedback and shape that angle. And you're going to have a daily 10-minute lesson. So my thought is like, I want to make it really easy, like easy wins every day. So you're going to have a daily 10-minute lesson. You're going to be actually sending out pitches, and there will be a community where you can like share your wins, share feedback, share, whatever you need. And then you're going to have a weekly call with me where it's like a live call, and we can talk about any questions that you have. We can go over all of that in the live call. So by the end of it, you'll have actual pitches sent out. You'll know exactly who to reach out to. You'll have a profile set up so that journalists can start quoting you, and just like more confidence and community in pitching yourself and getting your story out there.
Yes, absolutely. This is a great way too to like get started. Like, if you're someone who's never pitched a press person a day in your life, this is like a really good way to get started. And then like, if you're like me and you've done it, but you kind of need a little refresher, just like for me, I wanted to get back in the swing of it because I had to take a break just because of everything going on with my life, right? And then Mommy Collective work. It was just a lot. But I'm like, I told you the other day when we spoke, I was like, I want to get back into it. I need a little like kick in the butt, like something, right? So I'm really excited about it. So where can we sign up for this challenge?
I have to send you the link, but if you go to my Instagram page, which I'm sure will be linked,
yes,
it'll be on my link tree. So you can see it on there, and you'll see the pitching challenge on my link tree. And you can use your code, the code Paulina.
Yes.
Gives you 20% off.
Yay. Yes. And I'll link all this to below, the link to the challenge as well, plus the code. So all that good stuff. I love it. Before we wrap up, I do have a question for you. What is something that people kind of obsess over, right, when building a brand that actually might not matter as much as you think? And I think this is a really important question because like a lot of us, right, our minds just go in 10 different directions.
Yeah, I would say like the website, the signature, the bit, like anything that is having good branding is always great. I don't have like great branding. A lot of people don't, and they've made like really great businesses for themselves. I think, like those little details that people can obsess over, it's just like not worth it. Like I would focus most of my time like on social media and on media and like trying to get visibility, and then connecting with people, like, having sales calls, connecting with people. And then everything else, it doesn't really matter, because once people connect with you and understand your product and your service, then they'll buy from you. Even if your website is like, like 2020, like, I don't know, old school website, it doesn't really matter. It's just about you and your energy and your, what your product actually is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Focus more on that damn product or like that. You know what I mean? Like for me, I'm more focused on like Mommy Collective and the value that we bring or that I can speak on, right? Versus like how pretty my website is, and that's just the truth. Like I have a great website. My friend built it, but I'm not like sitting there thinking like, oh, I didn't do this or you know what I mean? Like I had to stop overthinking too, like just my posts. I'm like, okay, who cares if like, I don't like how my shirt looks or something so stupid, I'm just like, it's a good video, post it, So
yeah. And like the text and the branding, and it's just like, I don't like, and I'm sure moms like do not have time to be worried about that and going back and forth. Like you have, I don't know how much, like 30 minutes to film a video and like get it out there. Like you're not going to be worrying about making sure that the text and the font, and it's like every other, video that you've had, and the feed looks perfect. Like that's just not, what you should focus on. And no sort of like shame on people that do focus, because some people have like a very aesthetic eye and they want certain things to be that way. But I'm just saying, like, it shouldn't stop you, or shouldn't be something that you are overly focused on.
I 100% agree with that. Yes. My very last question for you, and I promise I will let you be for the rest of your day. I just have to ask, I thought it was a good question to ask you, but like, how can we turn like one media feature, so let's just say a mom listening or a woman listening is like, okay, I got my feature, whether it was the news or they were featured in like Business Insider, whatever it might be. How do they turn that feature into long-term credibility, right? Instead of just like posting it once, moving on. How do we kind of almost recycle that or like keep that still, within our credibility?
Yeah, for sure. And it should be recycled. Once you get a media feature, you can recycle it for the rest of your career and use it in different ways. But I'd say the first step is adding it to your media tab on your website. If you don't have a website, even if you do, you should also add it to like your Instagram bio, any of your sales pages. It should be like as seen on, or should have like a screenshot of your feature, because that builds authority and it helps people give you more credibility instantly. It should also be all on your LinkedIn, like on your socials, like pinned on your profile, and in your speaker deck. So if you're like trying to get more speaker gigs, it's always like, they're always going to go for the people that have already been featured in Forbes, have been featured in Business Insider. Like, they're basically telling people that an editor at a major authoritative publication said that my story is amazing and they wanted to feature it, and that people see that and they're like, oh, like she really knows what she's talking about. And so it should be in every like touch point of your sales page, website, socials, speaker deck. And you can even like create multiple content hits out of it. You can talk about it before it's happening. If you're going to go on TV, like, get ready with me to do this feature on TV. You could talk about like what the actual feature was, what it was like, what happened after, like usually like TV, if you go on TV and you have an event taking place, you'll get a lot of like clicks for that event. So it just depends like what happened after, things like that. So you can like reuse and use it. And I think you should reuse and use it for a very long time.
Yeah, no, I thought that'd be your answer, because I feel like, yeah, like everything you said, yes, but also this is my like little add on to that. It's like, be proud of yourself,
For sure.
like show the world. I love it.
And
I love it.
what's interesting, one other thing I wanted to add is I recently saw somebody say something about an authority tag. And I'm only sharing this because it helped me grow my Instagram like in a really short amount of time. But she was like, you should add an authority tag to your videos. So like if you're making a video, have like the hook, and then after say, I'm Suanny. I'm a former editor-in-chief, published author. I've been featured in NBC, Refinery, Pop Sugar. And it will retain audience. Like it retains audience like crazy, just like having that, like saying that, positioning it in that way. So I've done videos without that, and I've done videos with that, and it's like a dramatic change. So if you start saying that, especially with videos that you're like teaching or you're expressing something, it gives your video a little bit more authority and credibility. So that's another way you can use it.
That is great advice. And I hope that everybody heard that. And if you didn't, go rewind that, because yes, that'll 100% help you with your goals of whether it's getting press, getting, more opportunities, whatever it might be. That is actually a very great tip. So thank you, Suanny, for being here with us today. We appreciate you. I'm going to link your Instagram, website, and of course the challenge in here below. So use the code, get some dollars off. What is in store for you for the rest of the year? I know we have our challenge in September. Anything else coming up in the near future?
I'm trying to rest a little bit actually, because
Love it.
haven't for a while, and I want to start another Substack. So I actually have my Substack where if you find PR opportunities. So if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe to that, because it's free. The only paid tier is like when you actually want to pitch yourself, then you would like do that process. But I have that Substack, and then I want to start a new Substack where I'm just like sharing my voice and my opinions. I'm sharing more of like what I think, because I've been focusing a lot on like media and PR and stuff, which I love doing, but I do want to share a little bit more about myself and what I think and my like thoughts. So I want to launch that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to tag also your Substack, and then, we can't wait for the new one to come out too. And like, I know you and I are going to work on getting my Substack set up. So I'm very excited about that. I know, right? More things to do, but I know that I need to get on it. I've been thinking about it for some time. So it's perfect timing. So I appreciate it. Well, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon. Thank you.